Arsenal women are over in the US capital and they've started pre-season with a 2-1 win over Washington Spirit. I'm joined by Daisy Goodhand to look back on all of the action, and later we'll be talking about the Arsenal-Chelsea rivalry resuming over there in Washington, DC. Daisy, a good start to pre-season. I think the WSL, NWSL rivalry has shifted in the way of the English League this week, hasn't it? Of both Arsenal and Chelsea winning over there. And do you feel it was a fair reflection, the 2-1 for Arsenal?
I think like we talked about this with obviously the Washington Spirit side being quite different to an opponent that we used to play in. So I think they were a very strong side, very attacking side. Always usually provides a good game when Arsenal go up against an attacking side rather than that those low blocks that haunt us. So I think they had a lot of chances and failed to take several of those, and we had, we created some chances and we capitalized on it. So I do think that we obviously, like, it's the first game of pre-season. There's a few things that will be on our mind on working on, but like everyone was saying, this is the time to make those mistakes and learn from those defensive errors and things like that. So got to settle into playing again. You could tell that it had been a big gap since we'd last played together as a proper match, and obviously an opportunity to see different players. You know what, Jonas did that quite well, didn't he? He played different players in different positions. He experimented a little bit with that defensive midfielder position. And I think, yeah, it was a fair reflection. I think it was a tight game, and that's reflected in the scoreline and could have gone either way, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the sort of game that proves exactly why you need a pre-season and why it's so important when we look ahead to these Champions League qualifiers in September. And obviously Arsenal didn't have any sort of pre-season last year, and now we're playing, Washington Spirit, a top NWSL side. We then go to Chelsea at Audi Field as well, and then back here to Southampton, against a Championship side who played really well against us in the Conti Cup last season. The team selection, as you say, a bit of a mix of youth and experience. Katie Reid, Viv Leah, Freya Godfrey, all included in the starting lineup, and a few more youngsters coming on second half. I mean, Viv Leah, you talk about the team selection. She's obviously a winger. She's an attacking player, but in the game in Melbourne against the A-League All-Star, she played at right back and she got forward a lot. More difficult for her this time, but she even started the second half at left back. I think she swapped across at one point. I mean, there's a lot. She's obviously got a very good head on her shoulders to be so tactically aware, to be able to play out of position twice against an NWSL side at the age of 17. That's just something that really stood out to me, actually. I know she maybe didn't have the best game, but the confidence Arsenal have in the likes of her and Katie Reid is really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she also benefited from playing in the style that Arsenal had chosen to play. He'd obviously gone with the attacking fullbacks. We saw Katie McCabe, doing
Mm.
the exact same on the other flank. In terms of going forward, I think, Leah stood out in terms of her ability to drive with the ball. She really, like you say, she had that confidence. Defensively, obviously, that was always going to be a tough test, especially like you say, she played left back, right back. She did both in both halves. She played a significant amount of the game as well. I think I really like to see the trust in those young players. Obviously it would have been nice to see her get a little bit of a run out in that winger position, just to see really how she fit in. And obviously we kind of have struggled with that position recently. So I think, in terms of all the youngsters, obviously we talk about Katie Reid. We'll probably get
Mm.
into that as well a little bit, because she's just absolutely brilliant for her age, her maturity, confidence. I talked about this in my player ratings, how she stood out to me. I think it's just a case of you can't really believe that she's like so young at times, the way that she holds her own, and she did extremely well at like solidifying the defense, and was partnered with, I would say, I think it was two, and then obviously Ruben Moy obviously had that injury towards the end. So she had different centre back partnerships in there, different players that she had to work with, and she did really well in that position, and she did really well throughout the entire game.
Yeah, she's that calm figure, and I've been really impressed with her. Obviously, made a debut late on last season, but I am quite confident that she'll stay around the first team at least until Amanda Ilestedt, comes back from her pregnancy. Is probably not the right way to to put it. It's not an injury, of course. It's a great thing. But once she is back in the Arsenal fold, and maybe that'll see maybe the second half of the season, or Reed will perhaps play the whole season because obviously Teyah Goldie going out on loan to London City, that's a move that makes sense for me. She just needs guaranteed first team football. But someone at Reed's age, if she can stay in around the first team, she can play. Games for the under 21s as well. She'll have that option still this season. I think it makes sense to keep her around because I know a couple of people, I posed a question on Twitter. A couple of people said, is it a little bit too much to ask of a 17-year-old? And I don't think it is watching her play because she isn't phased. She hasn't really made a mistake yet at all. And I think the more minutes she gets in pre-season, that I think that'll really help Jonas Eidevall make that decision on his centre backs this season.
Yeah, it's a really tough one because we talked about like recruitment wise in the transfer window where we're going to look at a centre back. Is that something? I know a lot of people have said a left-sided centre back is the kind of player that Arsenal are looking for. It's not, no, we're not heard too much on that front. There's not been too much information regarding that that's come out. And obviously, having seen Katie Reed, when she got that chance at the end of last season in these games, in the All-Stars games as well, we can't forget that. She really did well in there. I think it was always going to be between her and Teyah when they made that decision, youngsters wise. Like you say, Teyah can really do with first team football having come back from the injury. But for me,
Mm.
I think when you watch Katie Reed, it's not a typical, like you say, typical youngster that maybe is coming in and not quite sure. She's got great, centre backs to learn from at Arsenal. That's probably huge for her. She's obviously partnered Leah Williamson, then she moved and did it with Lotta. So it's only going to help her in that situation to work with such incredible players and learn from them and grow in confidence. And it's only going to take, for me, how I see it, it's only going to take a few more games for her to really sort of see, she is capable of doing, playing in those games and really, I think as a fan base, we would sort of trust her to start, wouldn't we? Even
Mm.
in, those some of those more difficult games, maybe it's a case of we've got a lot of centre backs, obviously with like Adina as well, who might play those games. It's going to be a tough test to fit everybody in, but I definitely think there's a role for her in the team, having seen that Taya news.
If nobody comes in at centre back, I think we're sleeping a little bit on the option provided by Steph Catley, actually,
Yeah.
when she came into the side. I can't quite remember what game it was. It was sort of April time, and maybe the Tottenham one or the Leicester one. It was at the Emirates, and she was brilliant. And obviously, Arsenal do look a little light there without Listet, and they've got Cadena with Moy. Williamson, of course, as the main three, but I think Catley actually can provide something there. I think she's come in and done well, and maybe Jonas Eidevall, obviously he was forced into that decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if injuries come up again, if Catley pushes in field, because of course you can have McCabe at left back. It is an option if Arsenal don't bring anyone in.
Yeah, I recall that too. I think it was that Leicester game at the Emirates. And she came in, and obviously there was a lot of talk that Jonas had chosen to start Catley at centre back over Laia Cadena at the time. This was obviously towards the end of the season after Lotta had had such a brilliant season and then unfortunately got injured. So, I mean, that game was incredible. That she was solid defensively, and
Mm.
it's that run that
Especially,
she
yeah,
made
you're
into the
right.
box, wasn't it? That run
Mm.
that she made into the box where she got the assist for Russo's goal. That was the Leicester game at the Emirates. So,
Yeah.
he offers so much similar to what we see from Leo at times, driving forward with the ball. I mean, a lot of our centre backs seem to offer that, which, is something that Arsenal have obviously looked at and considered. But I think a lot of people weren't sure about the Steph Catley, mainly because obviously that's maybe not her strongest position, but she's just you could literally put her anywhere and I think she would really give it a good go. She's that kind of character that we
Yeah.
have in the squad, she's willing to do what it takes for the team. It's like similar with Katie McCabe. She always says, I'll play wherever you want me to play, kind of thing. So I think you've instilled that in a lot of the players at Arsenal, and Jonas is going to have to utilize this squad in different ways in this season. And if that means people filling in, it's not always a negative thing, is it? Because they actually do the job at times.
Yeah, if we end up with one centre back, at least we've got a ton of midfielders to put in
Yeah.
front of them. And yeah, the options are there. And I thought I'd pose the Catley question because, like you say, that Leicester game, the 3-0, weren't she? definitely performed well. And the fact she was chosen in front of Laia Cadena was interesting. Cadena, Caldente, and Emily Fox. Of course, Fox coming back to a place she's quite familiar with in the States. I thought Russo as well. There's a lot of talk about the heat and the humidity. I think having someone like her, of course, as well as Lotta, who've played over there, played college soccer. I think Russo, maybe that was quite helpful for her. Someone who knows those conditions, is used to playing over there, and she just looked back on song, Alessia Russo. Not that she's ever lost it. She just looked really good up front. It was two well taken strikers' goals, and if that's a sign of things to come, then that's a great sign.
Yeah, and she played quite a majority of the game, didn't she, as well? I noticed that she came off towards, the cabin of us between the 70th and 80th minute of that game. So again, she played significant proportion of the match, the two goals, just the first goal in itself was just Alessia Russo, really. I know there was a lot of talk about her presence in the box towards the end of last season. We talked about it after that Brighton last game of the season. She started to drift in there more, but then we're still seeing her making those runs in behind, linking up with the number 10 position that obviously Arsenal are looking to fill, and we'll probably get to that a little bit later. But in terms of Russo, I think her confidence is growing. She's really settling into the team. I do think this will be, that first season when she had to settle into playing for a different team, playing a different style of football. She's sort of really in the form of a life at the moment, it seems. She's carried that through to England. She's hopefully carrying that through into the new season. And depending on how Arsenal do in the Champions League and those other big competitions, it could be a real opportunity for her to hit the heights with actual goal scoring as well.
Yeah, it's exactly what Arsenal fans want. A striker who they know is just going to fight, stick the ball in the back of the net. She's getting into the right positions. And importantly, now we're already seeing, the players who are going to service her. We haven't seen her with Caldente yet, and that's something we're really going to be looking out for on Sunday. But we have seen her, Daisy, with Rosa Kafaji. You were impressed. I was impressed. Ian Wright was very impressed. I saw his video with the great Clive Palmer on Wrighty's house, and that says it all. If you've got Ian Wright noticing and saying good things about you, I can't think of many bigger confidence boosts, but it was more than deserved. She looked fantastic.
Yeah, really, really great that we got to see her. I wasn't sure how many of those new signings that we would get to see in that first game. Obviously, like you say, Mariona we haven't seen yet, and we hadn't had a couple of players back, but so excited that she got the opportunity to play a good proportion of that game. And actually, I wanted to see more, really. I wanted to see more of her after that 20, I can't even remember what it was, to be honest. If it was half, it was,
It
you know,
was the half, yeah. It
yeah.
wasn't long enough.
Yeah, exactly. I would have loved to see her for the whole game, but obviously this is pre-season, we've got the whole season to enjoy her. But interestingly, she floated around a couple of different positions. We talked about that when we talked about Mariona, but not Kafaji, obviously playing in that number 10 role. She just shone. She really did. She could pick up the ball and move it and drive with the ball. She wasn't scared to shoot at one point, which is something we talked about so much last season. Those midfielders not quite taking those chances. And the ball through to Russo, the ball through to Michelle Aguiman as well. So much talent. And I think I remember watching her against England when Sweden, she put that ball into the box. Can't remember who it was for now, but she has so much talent, and obviously it was a fantastic signing. She's young, she's got more potential, and I'm just really excited to hopefully, if she's utilised that number 10 position, to link up with other players and really have an impact in that team next season.
I think we're going to see some more sort of the licorice all sorts approach of the real mix and match up front for Arsenal. We know our Caldente can be versatile in her positioning. She can come in off the left wing. Kafaji was driving all over the place, across that forward line. How important will it be this season for Arsenal, to try and mix things up, to have players who are going to offer different styles in those forward areas? Because we know what Russo's going to do, and actually it's great her dropping deep. But in some cases, if she can just stay up front as a number 9 and open up that space for those to play in behind her, maybe we won't need to see Russo drop as deep as much anymore. But then it's obviously the option for the likes of Kafaji to push on in front of her. Just a little bit more variety is what Arsenal need, especially when we're looking at playing teams lower down in the WSL.
Yeah, it's something we lacked like a lot last season, and I think it's something that's obviously been considered in the summer, things that they're working on. Obviously, Stina Blackstenius signed the contract extension, so that's huge because I'm thinking her linking up with Kafaji. Obviously, they played together in the Swedish team. They know each other probably quite well. Can't say how much they have played together. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know we know what Stina Blackstenius is like. She loves making those runs in behind. She loves like being in the right place at the right time. I feel like not just Russo, obviously that again could be huge, but also how can we utilize Blackstenius? Obviously Mariona as well coming into that. You've got Mead who's looking to get back into form and potentially even other players who might Caitlin Ford looked I didn't put her in the player rating. She didn't play that much, but she looked fantastic coming on and really she that was the most I'd seen her really drive with the ball and get forward. Obviously, the news about Lacasse changes things and there's slightly less options, but I'm still really optimistic with those forwards that we have and then bringing Kafaji into that as well.
Yeah, I tweeted after Lacasse left and almost said sometimes good teams have to let good players go. And she's not a player who, anyone can say, she's let us down, she's not given her all for us, or even that she's not been good for Arsenal, because I think we've only really seen good things from her. But Arsenal are looking to go to the next level, and obviously Chloe's doing the same, looking to play regularly for Canada and find a club she's going to play first team football back to over to the NWSL. She's played all over the world now, Lacasse, and she's obviously looking for more but I really almost like the fact that Arsenal have let a top player like her go because it's going to open up for someone else, and we've seen that obviously Kafaji coming in, and you mentioned Ford there. Her and Mead now will be looking over their shoulders because you've got now Caldente joining up. And I mean, when you're bringing over Caldente and Emily Fox, who's obviously just won gold, like Cadena as well, that's just what you want if you're in that squad because the amount of pressure that's on you to perform now because there are so many options for Arsenal on those forward lines.
Yeah, I definitely agree completely. I think, Lacasse, sometimes players just come in at Arsenal and they just seem to be loved by I mean, everybody is, but you have those few that just the fans just are absorbed by and Lacasse gave us fantastic moments, the equaliser against United, the goal against United at the Emirates with the celebration. Obviously, she was the reason that we had one of the best chants that I think we'll maybe ever have. So sometimes, it's kind of sad in a way because obviously you just like, certain players. I was the same when Rafa left. I just loved her as a player and I think it's just a case of natural progression. You just have to accept it in football. It's not, for all I know, bad blood. It's just a case of this, yeah, it's not gonna the game time isn't going to be there. And like you say, that's a fantastic problem to have for the team and for Jonas. But unfortunately, these things happen in football. And I do think, we're going to be the biggest Lacasse fan wherever she goes for a long time. The same that we are with Rafa now, even after she's gone. So I do like that aspect in football, and it really serves to say this type of team that we're building, that experience from like players like Caldente, the young talented players that are coming through, and then players in form like Russo, and obviously other players that we've got that we can really get the best out of.
Mm. Feel sorry for our friends at Arsenal Canada who have gone from having D'Angelo and Lacasse to now nobody, of course, across
Yeah.
the women's and men's team. But it did strike me watching Canada at the Olympics, and I was thinking, why is Lacasse not really playing as much as I'd have expected? And obviously, that's any player, that's the pinnacle that she's going to be wanting to break back into that team, I'm sure. And a good chance to do it over to Utah, where she's linking up with the former Reading manager, Kelly Chambers, who's in charge there. So yeah, all the best to her and all the best to Teyah Goldie, who of course has gone out on loan this season. Anything else to talk about from the Washington Spirit game? I thought Naomi Williams came on and did well. Half an hour, of course, didn't let any goals in. Um, I think that's probably about it. But just goalkeeping wise, I think Manu Zinsberger was fine in the end, and she trained yesterday. But Williams providing that option, obviously Van Domselaar, I think we forget because she's a new signing, we just expect new signings to be fit and ready to go. But she's obviously coming back from an injury that she suffered and kept her out the second half of last season with Aston Villa. But I thought Naomi Williams was really brave in her positioning. She was quick off her line, and she's one of those keepers who's going to throw herself around a bit, which I like.
Yeah, I also didn't realize that I think she's 19 now, so she's slightly older, isn't she, than I actually thought she was. So I think, she's really quite a confident player, similar to what we say about Katie Reid. Obviously as a goalkeeper, it's more difficult at times, but she came out, when she needed to. She was confident. She was strong in goal. She did really well, and I think when she's given those opportunities. I know she played the second half, didn't she? I think it was the All Stars game that we played in Australia. She absolutely has always done extremely well. Obviously, it's a difficult one with these kind of players. Where do they fit into the squad? I expect Naomi Williams would probably like stay with the squad, obviously as an option, similar to what we're saying about Katie Reid, but. I'm interested, obviously with these players like Daphne Van Domselaar, depends on when she's fit and things like that. But it's about that challenge between Manu and the goalkeeper that comes in, and then there's still a lot to learn for young goalkeepers as well, like Naomi, who can learn from those two fantastic goalkeepers that we've got at the club right now.
Mm. Yeah, lots to look forward to there. We've had a lot of keepers to talk about in recent years, haven't we? We've
Yeah.
got for a few, but Zinsberger's staying put, and she's just watching. She must be watching like the conveyor belt of those who are brought in to challenge her, and she just seems to be fending them away. But I think Van Domselaar will prove the toughest challenge yet. We'll look forward to seeing her when she makes her eventual Arsenal debut. This Sunday, then we're back in action. A later 9 p.m. kickoff for those in the UK. Again, the game will be live on both Arsenal.com and DAZN on YouTube, and we'll have player ratings. One of us will be taking care of that. I'll be racing back from the cricket on Sunday night to watch that because Arsenal Chelsea pre-season or not, whatever competition, it's always a blockbuster. It's a new look Chelsea side this year, Daisy, and a bit of an unexpected one, I think, in terms of what we're anticipating from Chelsea. We know what we're going to be getting from Arsenal. We've got three players to bring back into the squad. Chelsea, it's a star-studded squad as it always is, with a few moving in. I mean, Lucy Bronze is one we'll be keeping an eye on because down the wings, I think in particular, they've really hurt Arsenal in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I haven't watched I haven't seen the Chelsea game, so I don't know how the goals were scored. But I did see, I think it was Cannarid, was it Cannarid that got on the score sheet? So obviously she's a player that that is extremely talented, and it'll be interesting to see if she plays on that right side, if there is
Does
that
well in
relation.
the past, doesn't she, Canary?
Yeah, if there is that relationship between her and Lucy Bronze. Obviously you cannot ignore the other players that are soon, that are coming back in. Obviously Lauren James is always going to be a fantastic player, and she has her and nearly her Arsenal on many occasions, especially last season. So obviously potentially different tactics, but the same idea from what we're seeing from Sonia Bonpasta. Obviously, hopefully not hurting Arsenal on Sunday, because obviously it's always a rivalry, like you say, even if it's pre-season. But I'm interested to see how if each team goes for it, if that makes sense. Obviously it's pre-season friendly, if you can really call it that. But I want to see obviously two attacking sides, similar to what we saw with Washington Spirit, and I think Chelsea played Gotham, didn't they? So it's been a lot of attacking football and a lot of attacking teams going up against each other. Be interesting to see, who comes out on top in that one. I'm interested to see individual players as well. Like let's, especially that Arsenal side, other players coming back in, see hopefully some minutes for Mariona potentially as well. So again, it'll be an interesting test. And then with Southampton, I think that'll be a different test altogether for Arsenal, trying to finally improve on their games against those more defensive sides.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And of course, the Southampton game falls on Saturday the 31st. We play on Wednesday the 4th against Rangers. So whether they try and pick the team that they think will play against Rangers or whether it's actually resting a lot of players, but they obviously see the need for that friendly as one more before Rangers. And I'll be there actually at St Mary's to cover that. And I doubt that one will be shown. Perhaps Arsenal.com will take care of it. We'll know closer to the time. But if not, we'll have the live blog there and player ratings to come from St Mary's as well as post-match reaction. I can't imagine there'll be loads of media coverage, so make sure you're keeping an eye on the Gooner fanzine for that one. As we say, Chelsea on Sunday, and then we're launching into those Champions League qualifiers after Southampton. Caldente coming in, debut for her, we hope, on Sunday. And Emily Fox, do you think she'll feature? Obviously, she's come over here, US tour, back on home soil, but she's had a busy old summer, hasn't she?
Yeah, she is a player that I noticed plays a significant amount of minutes. I think it could go either way with that decision. Obviously, we've got players who can play instead of Emily Fox, but again, I think Jonas will want to build her back into that side. She's a player who does quite well when she's, in and out, but also I think it's clear that he's trying to test different things and obviously he left certain players out. I don't know if she's fully fit yet, but players like Leah Volti weren't included in the squad in the previous match. I wonder if she's still coming back from injury, really. But I think it could go either way. I would like to see Emily Fox because I think she's a fantastic player, but I don't want to risk anything. Obviously, she had that injury that gave us all a bit of a scare during the Olympics. So potentially they'll be keeping an eye on that. She looks like she was fine in the final, but who knows really with that one. And I'm excited to get everybody back and to really see where that what that final team looks like. Who knows if we'll even see that for Rangers, but hopefully Jonas is deciding who's going to stay and who's going to go out on loan, or yeah, maybe some more surprise exits like Lacasse.
That Fox injury that must have put a little dampener on your trip to France. That was the game you were at. That must have been
Yeah.
pretty worrying. Were there any other Gooners in the stadium as well?
To be honest, I think so. Yeah, obviously there was a significant amount of US fans there. I was ex extremely impressed. I know how huge their fan base is, and obviously they're pioneers in the women's game. But I just there was just a sense of just like the most awful, like scared, you know, just nervousness after that game, really. Obviously saw the injury. It potentially looked worse than it was. Obviously, it was the fact that she was visibly upset as well. But it's the way that it is at the minute, and it's scary with women's football, isn't it? You kind of hold your breath every time somebody goes down or something happens. But obviously, I see her as such a key player for Arsenal, especially coming into this season. And she's only proved it, hasn't she? In that US squad, she was fantastic even after the injury.
Well, we look forward to the game on Sunday, 9 o'clock kickoff. As we said, we'll have a player ratings from one of us two, and then I'll be putting together the three things we learned piece the following day. They'll be done by me. I think I'm taking on those, the three things we learned this season, and we'll be seeing some of your analysis, Daisy, as well. So loads of content on the Gooner fanzine. Of course, we're still in the process, early stages. Of putting together the next Arsenal Woman Gooner fanzine that's going to be online. We're going to have four coming this season, and they're all going to be free of charge as well. And you never know further down the line if we can show the interest is there. People do ask about going print, and obviously we need to know the interest is there, but the numbers are good from the first issue, over 150,000. And all we can say to those who would love to see a print fanzine is just to keep supporting the work, tune into these podcasts, read the articles, and read the next fanzine. We're always looking for advertisers as well, and we're also looking for people who'd be interested in selling the Guna outside the Emirates or Meadow Park for women's games. As well, because obviously Leif can't always make those, and I'm busy with the press box commitment. So do get in touch if that interests you at all. But lots to come this season, Daisy. I know you'll be ramping up stuff as well on your Substack this season and be on the pitch. Of course, your great team looking at things away from the field, of course, but a big season to come.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Like on and off the field, I think it's going to be huge. Obviously, last season was incredible for me, really getting into doing this and getting into the industry in general. But it's great, isn't it, when you just happen to be a fan of the team and you get to actually follow the team and I've gone, and done media stuff, but I've also just gone as a fan so many times and enjoyed it. So let's hope that Arsenal are able to give us something amazing that's, going to be even better for us to write and talk about because those analysis pieces after we lose again, I still put them out even when we lose. So that's the difficult
Watching the
part
game
about
back,
yeah,
yeah.
writing it down and actually admitting that happened at times, that West Ham game, the Tottenham game. Let's not have any more of those, please.
Yeah, the Chelsea game we lost, I watched the first half because I knew there was no point. There's nothing to add in the second half. All the damage was done, but the games go slower, so much slower, and you have to watch them back. But as we say, we'll have loads and loads of content to come this season, and yeah, support the Gooner, of course. We're putting
Yeah.
together the final stages of the next print fanzine. That'll be out next Saturday at Arsenal versus Brighton in the Premier League. So if you see Leif or our matchday sellers, make sure to go and say hello to them, and yeah, keep an eye out. We're hoping to get this women's fanzine out before Arsenal versus Manchester City, which is less than a month away now, the return of the WSL, but we're 10 days away from Arsenal Southampton. I think we'll see quite a few Gooners go down there as well, and I'll be there for the Gooner fanzine too, as I said. Daisy, great to see you as always. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, thank you so much.